wrote all my notes, the power went out at like 5 p.m. at my place. Couldn't even type them. I was sitting there with like flashlights on my table hitting the ceiling. I was telling Sam like I was about to get candles out and get a quill and ink and then roll up my manuscript and ride in a chariot to church. Yeah, for some reason, anytime the weather changes, so when the first heat wave came, power outage, woke up at like 3 in the morning. And I'm like, dude, it's so hot in here. I'm so thirsty. Of course, power went out. Happens in the whole neighborhood. Thanks, PG&E. So, that's how it goes when you're preparing a message. Everything goes crazy, power outage. And I think the dog was doing something crazy. I don't even know, man. I lost track of all the crazy things going on today. It was okay. I was able to focus. God was with me. And apparently God was with Sam because that exhortation for prayer he had very relatable to what I'm going to speak on. But first, let me ask you guys, how's 2020 been for you guys? Great? Me too. Man. Yeah. But let me ask you really, aside from all the craziness and all the coronavirus and all the everything, how's 2020 been for you? This year has been quite a trial for me. And I wouldn't say it's because of all the outside things that have been happening. I've just been, personally, me in my life, there comes times and seasons of peace in your life, and you got some seasons of trials in your life. And this last year, I think more like starting like November. Remember last November, Sam, we were building that huge wine rack? Yeah, like for a client out in El Dorado Hills, like, yes, not for me. Since then, up until like now, like finally, like this wave of trials has just like finally tapered off. And I'm just like in a place of peace. And I just want to thank God for that. 2020 has been a trial, but it's been a learning experience, and God's been with me. And I want to just share with you some revelations I've received over the year that's helped strengthen my faith. I want to talk about following Christ and what it looks like to follow Christ. And it's just a simple idea that I want to develop as I'm speaking with you guys. It's a simple idea that following Christ is full surrender to Him and to His will. However, me and you, we can be hesitant to do this. Matthew 13:44. Here, let me pull out my phone. I got my full verses here. But Matthew 13:44, or rather, Luke 9. Luke 9, verse 23. It's the verse where Christ says, and we know this one, it says, "If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross daily, and follow me." The question is, what do we do? How do we follow Christ? How do we be more Christ-like? Well, He gives you two. He says, pick up your cross daily. But first, before you could even pick up your cross, you have to deny yourself. That's what it begins with. And I really just want to touch on what it means to fully and completely deny yourself on every level and give yourself and surrender yourself completely to Christ. In Matthew 13:44, it says, "The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure." This is Jesus speaking. "Buried in a field, that a man found and he reburied. Then in his joy, he goes and sells everything he has and he buys that field." Matthew 19:21 through 22 says, if you want to be perfect, this is when the young man comes to Christ. And he says, look, I've kept your commandments and I follow all the law and the prophets. And God, what else must I do? And he says, if you want to be perfect, go sell all your belongings, give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come follow me. When the young man heard that command, he went away grieving because he had many possessions. See, what Christ asks for us, and Sam touched on this, Christ asks that we give up everything. We give up everything, all our plans, all of our aspirations or dreams. He asks us to give up everything. It's not just physical. This young man that came to him had many possessions. That was his livelihood. He wasn't just some rich, greedy guy. That was everything he owned. It was his entire livelihood. It was, it's probably asking him to give up his business. But God asks us to give up everything, to be willing to give up everything. The man in the field, the same idea. It even says that in his joy, he goes and sells everything to get that field. He goes joyfully, giving away all that he has because he wants that treasure. Jesus is asking us to give up our dreams and our rights so we can successfully fulfill his perfect plan instead of our broken plan. My message today is titled, Follow Christ, and I subtitled, With All That You Have and All That You Are. Sometimes we're hesitant to want to give up, and this is what I've discovered in my life. I've been hesitant to give up to God, my dreams. I had certain plans for my life. I thought in my life, I'm going to go and I'm going to do this. I'm going to be successful here, and that's going to be the right solution for my life. And I slowly realized that I had those desires for my life and I had those dreams for my life because I wasn't fully certain that God himself had it all figured out for me. I wasn't fully certain. Instead, I thought I knew a little bit better than Christ does. Or maybe you might think that you're not fully and intentionally made by God. I'm going to read Psalm 139, verses 14 through 16. And this is David, and he says, I will praise you because I have been remarkably and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful, and I know this very well. And listen to this. My bones were not hidden from you when I was made in secret. When I was formed in the depths of the earth. This is the best right here. Your eyes saw me when I was formless. All my days were written in your book and planned before a single one of them began. Look, God's sovereign and his divine authority, it rules our entire life. Two things I want to take out of that psalm is, one, he saw you before you were formed. So God, how could he have seen you before you were formed, before you were physically made? It's because he's the one who created you. He envisioned you. He's the one who made you with a specific purpose and a specific plan. He made you how you are. He made you how you look. He chose that personality that you have. He chose your skills and your talents. The way your brain ticks, all of us are different. I don't know about you, but I was terrible at algebra. I was good at geometry. Jacqueline's the other way. She's terrible at geometry. She's good at algebra. All in all, though, I'm terrible at math. She's great at math. I'm great at languages, She's terrible at spelling, God made each one of us different. And it's not only that God made us different just to have variety. He didn't sit there and, take the dice when he's making you and say, okay, boom, here's traits, here's skills, here's looks. And then he rolls the dice and boom, okay, that's Joe. That's what he gets. You know what I mean? God didn't randomize it. God is a God of order. He's not a God of chaos. He chose you to look the way you look. He chose you to think the way you think. He chose your personality. And not only did he choose all these things, but he chose them with intention, with a purpose. He made you in these ways, and he formed you in this specific way because he has a specific plan and a specific purpose for you. Furthermore, all that you have, God made you the way you are with a purpose, and he also put you in the time that you exist today. He didn't make you exactly intentionally and then randomly throw you at some point in history. He put you here. He made you, most likely, if you're hearing me now, he made you Romanian. He made you male or he made you female for a purpose. All of these things, where you are, your wealth, your status, where you are in life, he chose that for you. And he foreknew these things. I just want to read again. Your eyes saw me when I was formless. All my days were written in your book and planned before a single one of them began. He made you intentional and with a purpose. Now, what happens is we have our dreams for our life, and we have our rights we believe we have for ourselves. And I guess I want to touch on the two. How it connects your dreams and your rights is basically we think we know the path. We think we got an idea figured out for ourselves, but God knows even better. God knows even better. He made you, and he has a purpose for you. And what happens is there's a clash. You got your plans, you got your dreams, you got your path you're trying to go on, and God's constantly trying to pull you back on his path. You know, that's if you're a child of God and you've given your life over to him. Now, we understand about rights, and, I've heard it in a song, God, I give up my rights, and it's so interesting, like that idea of giving up your right. It's like scary, against other people. We don't want to give up our rights. We're equal, man to man. We don't want to give up our rights and have anyone rule over us or us to rule over anyone, right? We believe that. It's even in the Constitution. We believe that rights, the Constitution at least says that our rights were given to us by our Creator, and so we have our rights before another person, but coming before God with that same attitude. It's like coming up to the one who made you and saying, hey, I deserve this and I have the right to do this. He's like, I made you. I literally knew you before you had form. I literally planned your steps before you even took them. It's counterintuitive. It's not just, I guess, disrespectful. That's not even the point I want to touch. It's the idea that it holds us back. Surrendering our rights to God is giving back control to the one who created us. It's letting him have rule back in our life as it was in the Garden of Eden before Adam and Eve strayed from it. That's the idea. It's letting God, it's not so much that you surrender your rights, instead you put them in his hands. I guess that's a better way to say it. And the same goes with dreams and plans we have for our life. It's natural for us to dream and to have a vision for our life. You wouldn't move forward if you didn't have an idea of what you're going to do and what you're going to go and what your next step is in your life. You're just going to wander aimlessly. So it's very natural for us. God put that in us, and he desires that for us. But what happens is we make dreams for our life because we're trying to fix what we think is broken with us. We forget we're made wonderfully by God. We're made perfect by him. And a lot of times some of our dreams ends up being compensation. Well, I grew up poor, so, I want to have a business and I want to be wealthy. I want to have money, or, I think I don't look good, so I want to be beautiful. We're always trying to fix ourselves with our dreams a lot of times. Or we're just trying to seek what we think is best for us. But instead we give up our dreams and we put them at God's feet, and instead we go and we sit with Christ, and we get to make our dreams and our plans together with God. We get to plan our life together with God. Let's plan our life with God. Let me ask you something. Me in my life in the last, 2-3 years, I feel like I've been on like this repetitive loop where I'm constantly trying to go and follow my dreams and do something, and I'm always like, boom, hit a wall. And I'm like, okay, let's try it again like this way. Boom, hit the same wall. Okay, maybe if I go quicker, boom, hit the same wall. I feel like that's been in my life, and maybe I'm speaking to you. That's totally been going on in my life, and I realize like maybe if I wasn't Christian, I might have went further in my path. But I've given my life over to God, and God, because he loves me, and he loves you, he closes doors and he puts a stop to some of the plans in our life that, maybe could have made you money, maybe could have made you successful, whatever it could be. God puts a stop to it, and he's like, no, you've given your life to me. I'm your master now. That's not the right path for you. And so we might find ourselves in this repetitive loop where it's just the same thing. And you look back and you're like, dude, it's been 3 years. I'm doing the same thing. What's going on, And when we realize we're not fully surrendering, we need to come before God and surrender everything to him. Now, I want to touch on this idea of, so God made you with a specific purpose, with a specific plan. He's got a specific path for you, for dreams and plans that you can fulfill for your life that he has gotten ready for you. And there's something so freeing, I guess, and knowing that all that burden to discover all those things and figure out all the details, to discover the details and to figure it all out, that's the journey. But there's a perfect peace knowing that it will work out if you're doing it with Christ. It's almost like you still got to put in the time and the work, but the risk of will it all work out, you're not taking that risk. You know that in the end, it's going to work out for you because you're going with God. It's like playing a video game with cheat codes on. You're going to still play the game, but no matter what, you're going to win. Period. You're going to win. You live longer, you live shorter, you win. It doesn't matter what you do and how you do it. As long as you're doing it in Christ, in the end, it's going to be for your good. But, sorry, I got off topic. I want to talk a little bit about gifts and skills and how that plays into, what it means to live for God and to serve him. Like I was saying, God made us all different. God made us all unique. Furthermore, he made us with a purpose. You can look at yourself and you can see your skills and different attributes that you have. Whether you're good at singing, maybe God wants you to glorify him with that. I'm a terrible singer. Clearly, God does not want me to glorify him with that. Clearly. You ever see those guys in American Idol and they go, some skinny weird guy comes up there and he's going to go and sing a Mariah Carey song and you're like, dude, is this guy going to actually do it? And he does not do it. No. It's like, you got some skills, man. God gave you some skills. Figure them out. That ain't one of them. Maybe it's beauty. Some people were made beautiful and God chose that. It's not, beauty isn't just vanity. God chose that because that person's going to have more influence over other people because they're going to look at them different just because they're beautiful people. God intended for that person to use it. They say even when they were killing all the firstborns in Egypt and they put Moses in the basket and they sent him out. I believe it was like the princess of the Pharaoh's court saw the child. It was no surprise that it was a Jewish baby. They knew it was a Jewish baby, and they knew that at that time they were killing all the firstborns and that he would have been one of the victims. But some texts say, and some historical studies say, that they thought Moses was such a beautiful looking baby that he was marked by God. He was marked by God and he was beautiful, so they couldn't dare kill him. They understood and they even respected they didn't understand it, but they respected the idea that this child is made beautiful. And they believe, that's why he lasted in the king's court, God made you specifically with a purpose. He gave you certain skills. It's up to you to discover those things and to work them out with God and surrender to Him. Because ultimately, it's not just to serve Him, but ultimately, it's deeper than just serving Him. You're not just a worker for Christ. It's more than that. It's that there's a joy in service and in serving alongside with God, and that's like the relationship you get to have with your Father. It's like when you take I have two kids, and like it's a joy for me to do something with Abel. To like, I take his little he's got these like magnetic Lego blocks, and we're like building a house together. It's a joy for us together in communion. Remember, God is love, and everything He does at the end of the day, it's to have a relationship and ultimately to have communion with you. And so in you fulfilling the gifts that God's given you on the path that He made for you, ultimately it's a relationship, and that's a communion you get to have with God. And that only comes ultimately with surrender to Him. We have to ultimately surrender everything in our life, yes, even our dreams, even our rights. We give it all up at His feet. And I assure you that your life will make a lot more sense. And you'll find yourself on the right path. Thank you, God. That's my message for tonight. And thank you for listening.